Welcome to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker. You're watching this on television. Why John's on your left. And in between, why Dan Hawkins, the House Majority Leader, 100th District from Wichita. And first off, thank you guys for being here.
All right.
We didn't have a show last week because what is that term you guys use for turnaround? Turnaround, that's the name of it, huh?
Yeah.
So turnaround, and so you had a week off while paperwork gets caught up with what you're doing, and now you've been back at it all this week. So what happened this week now?
Well, let's talk about last week first, because we didn't have a show. We ran a number of bills. We were on the floor most of the day, every day. Out of my committee, Fed and State, we did a constitutional amendment for the sheriff, creating the sheriff as a constitutional position, which it was at one point in our Constitution. In the early 1900s, it was taken out. So there's been some problems with county commissioners wanting to remove the sheriff's office and have a committee appoint a chief law enforcement officer of the county. The Sheriff's Association with a number of other law enforcement associations came in and asked for this. We passed it out of committee, ran it on the floor because it's a constitutional amendment. We need 84 votes. We got 97 votes.
Ooh.
It was a bipartisan issue, so now it goes to the Senate. And we didn't take off a week. They had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I guess 4 or 5 days, which gives the two bodies, the Senate and the House, an opportunity to switch bills. The bills that are passed in the House goes to the Senate, and the Senate bills come to the House for non-exempt committees. And this week we came back in on Tuesday, so we've been working. I've had an alcohol delivery bill that was killed in committee today. We're probably on the floor next week, but this is week 8, and we only have about 2 weeks left for committees to do their work, and then the last week will be on the floor, and then we will adjourn 1 April, and then come back the latter part of April for the veto session. And so things are kind of picking up. My committee's received a number of Senate bills. We've sent House bills to them. At some point in time, we'll go to conference committees. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of activity for the last 2.5 weeks or whatever. But and we can work bills when we come back for vetoes, but Dan has to make a certain motion to get that done.
Okay.
Right, and so we've got that going on. But you know, some of the things we have been talking about. You know, we've had some education bills that we've looked at, and you have to be careful on the education bills. They are not what some people say they are. You know, everybody has an interest groups out there that want to highlight some bad parts or good parts. I had a meeting with our superintendent of schools in Abilene, and I've had a meeting with our superintendent of schools in Solomon to get their take on some of these bills, and it was very helpful for me to understand that. So I've met with them. I've also contacted some other people in education. And so I think I have a pretty good handle of what we need. You know, transparency is a big word right now, but in Kansas, we've been really lucky. I mean, this is not Virginia or San Francisco. You know, all of our school board members are local people. Some of them are business people, some of them are not. But they do a really good job of keeping the handle on the education issues. But you know, parents have a right to be informed of what their children are being taught. I think we do that in Abilene, but this bill would have certain requirements that they would have to post on their internet of what subjects they were being taught, and when they were being taught that subject, and so that's going to be a hot issue. Jobs in the economy, of course, inflation is just going crazy. Gas prices are crazy. You know, we're not in a war, but we are in a type of war that we are, you know, have restraints on trade with Russia now because Putin is totally out of control. And in Ukraine, I feel sorry for the folks in Ukraine. I mean, they're leaving by the droves. You know, a million refugees going to Poland and other connecting countries. So, I mean, I hope someone or Putin comes to his senses, but it is crazy and especially now that they're shelling civilian areas. They're not military targets.
Yeah.
My understanding, they're shelling apartment buildings and stuff. So yeah, it kind of reminds us back to the '60s when we were in the Cold War. You remember those days?
Right. And this is John. Have you ever been over there?
I have not been to Ukraine. I've been surrounding countries.
Poland and
yeah. And but I was there when the communists were the USSR was still in control of those companies, those countries, and East Germany. So, they've tasted freedom, Ukraine, and now to try to go back the other way, I just don't think Putin will be successful.
Yeah. I just don't understand what he's trying to accomplish. But
I'm not either.
Hey, we're going to cut away, take a break. You're watching Legislative Updates. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the second segment of Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with co-host John Barker. On the outside and in between us is Dan Hawkins from the 100th District, and he's House Majority Leader. I always change your title somewhere going through and make it higher for you, but you're House Majority Leader. Yep. And first off, what I want to tell you is if you're watching this today, you'll be able to take a look at, on the screen, you will see the contact information for Dan and for John, and you're certainly welcome to make contact with them. That's why it's up there. We thank you so much for all of the good feedback coming in, telling us how much you enjoy the show, how informative it is, and I appreciate the fact that John always comes in on Friday when they're in session, and then always brings us a great guest, and he has so today. So, Dan, what have you been doing this week?
Doug, we've been really kind of kicking off the second half. The whole year, the whole session has kind of been different in a lot of respects. Number one, we're having to go through redistricting right now, reapportionment. We kicked out the congressional maps, and those are in the courts right now. Our folks are now really concentrating on doing the Senate maps on the Senate side and the House district maps on the House side. It's really important that we make sure we get those right, because number one, we really don't want to have the courts mess with those, which is what happened last time when John and I came into the legislature back in 2013. There were 59 of us in that freshman class, because apportionment had went to the courts, and the courts didn't care whether they drawed competing current incumbents in together, and so they were having to fight it out, and of course only one of them's going to win, which made it to where we had such a huge class. We don't want that to happen again. It certainly, I guarantee you, the Democrats, it didn't bode well for them. But it could go either way, and we just don't want to take that chance. It's kind of like a fight, a UFC fight or a boxing match. You never want it to go to the judges, because you never know what the judges are going to do. Right. So we want to make sure we do it right, we get it done, and we don't have the courts get involved. So, for your listeners here, District 70's got John Barker as their representative. He's done an awesome job. They're really lucky to have him. And I'm really lucky to have him there, because he is in one of the toughest, actually he's in a couple of tough committees, but he chairs one of the toughest committees. Health insurance is, or not health insurance, but the health committee is also a very difficult committee. He's a member of that one. But chairing Fed and State is important to us, because a lot of times we send stuff to him that we certainly don't want out. There's problems in those bills. He's a tough guy, and he can stand up to a lot of pressure, and he does stand up to a lot of pressure to keep some of the crap bills that we get out of coming to the floor. So I wanted to throw that in. We have HCR 5014, which was a constitutional amendment that we passed back before turnaround during the week last week. Actually, we passed it on Monday of last week, so a little over a week ago. What that was a constitutional amendment to make it so the legislature has really the final say on rules and regs. Currently, the way it happens is we pass a bill out of the House, out of the Senate, goes to the governor signs it, then it goes to the bureaucrats in the government system to write the rules and regulations that really implement that law. And we have a joint committee of rules and regs, both senators and House members, who look at those rules and regs after they've put them together, and they will analyze those rules and regs and go back to those bureaucrats and say, we don't like what you did. You changed the intent of our law.
Rewritten it.
They rewrote it, so we call it the fourth branch of government. They literally changed law just by their rules and regs. The unfortunate thing is that we have no way to stop them from doing that. So if they agree with us, yeah, we messed up, they might go back and change it. But if they don't agree with us, they just thumb their nose at us and say, guess what? We get the last say, so it doesn't really matter what you say. And ever since Representative Highland, he was the chair of the Rules and Regs for so many years, and he would tell me over and over and over again, Dan, we have no control over this. They're changing things day in and day out from the intent that the legislature meant for those bills. And so we've got to do something. Well, finally they figured out really the only way we can do it is to go in and change the Constitution. And John could tell you the legality of that. I really can't. But there is some legality of the reason why we have to do it that way. So we did that. We actually passed it. It was not an easy lift. We actually took 3 stabs at it before we got it passed. We actually passed it during committee of the whole, but then when we got to final action the day later, we come up with only 80 votes and we had to have 84. Laid it over the weekend, came back on Monday and did a reconsideration vote. We won that, then brought the constitutional amendment back up for another vote, and that time we won it. We actually got 85. We had actually bipartisan. We had a couple of Democrats come on board with us. So that is a really, really, really important piece, and I'd kind of like John to explain why we had to do it that way, because he can do it from a legal standpoint that I really can't.
Oh, it's just based on, it takes a constitutional amendment because it's in the Constitution, and you have to amend the Constitution. You can't ignore it. But it is a bill or a constitutional amendment. I would encourage the public to read and to vote on it. It's set for the November election because Dan's right. It is the 4th branch of government. Some people say the press was, but it's really the bureaucrats who write the rules and regs. Look at EPA. The federal EPA, where they say they have control over water, but now they want to take control in some states over runoff water off the highway and have to process that before it can go into a stream. So, and that was never the intent of the Clean Water Act. So bureaucrats, they're there for 30 or 40 years. We're there for a shorter period of time.
Right.
And they're there 365 days a year.
Yeah. Well, all right, we're going to cut away, take a break. We'll be right back. You're watching Legislative Updates. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with co-host John Barker on your far left. In between, Dan Hawkins from the 100th District out of Wichita. And this is Friday afternoon as we film this, and you guys just coming back from the legislature in Topeka. And going to go home for the weekend and then right back at it. You won't even get the whole weekend off because I know you go back on Sundays usually. And thank you so much for the service that you guys put in. Dan, what else do you want to cover?
So we had another bill that nobody probably heard about, but it's really kind of a neat bill that's going to take care of a problem. Sometimes we have problems that just pop up that we have to take care of. This one is House Bill 2594, and it's exempting certain modifications to antique vehicle VINs. So here's what happened. Is we had a 1959 vet that was brought to Kansas. All of the transactions were appropriate. There's nothing illegal about anything, but back, and I think it was originally in Ohio, they had restored this 59 vet, and when they did, they took the VIN plate off, did their restoration, put the VIN plate back on, and when it was inspected here in Kansas by the troopers, because it had the wrong rivets on the VIN plate, they confiscated that as that whole vehicle as contraband. It's actually tied up in litigation right now in the courts. But if the troopers win, if we didn't do anything, they were going to destroy, as soon as the courts finally says okay, they're going to destroy that car. And that would be such a shame to see a restored 59 vet be destroyed like that. And so what we did was we just went in and just made a minor modification to the statute that basically says that when a car is being restored like that, they put the VIN plate back on, it does not require to have original rivets to put it back on.
Well, isn't there ID numbers on other parts of the car that would, okay.
But they're that specific that because it had the wrong rivet,
Wow.
that they were going to destroy that car. So that was one of those things that we had to do really quickly, just simply because of we don't know when the courts are going to make their decision, and we wanted to get a law tweaked to where there's no chance of that vehicle being destroyed.
Did you ask if it was a 327 cubic inch?
I did.
Did you?
350 horses.
350 horse, okay.
I did ask.
They put a little extra engine in it than what they came out with.
They did, and that was a problem. It was legal in the state where he went to purchase it, but when he brought it back to the state, he had to get inspected, and they have a specific statute the troopers follow when they do the inspection. If the rivets are changed, it becomes contraband.
My goodness.
Yep.
And so has that law passed, that the amendment that you made?
So we've passed it on the House. It's in the Senate. It went to the Senate, through turnaround. So it's over there. We're pretty sure it'll get passed, and the governor will sign it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of rebuilds on cars and restoration, with the Kansas Auto Racing Museum. So there's a lot of restoration that takes place, and people spend half of a lifetime working on those, and they love it.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah,
spent.
Tremendous. Just
this
tremendous.
one would have been a very expensive loss. It truly would have.
Yeah.
Yep. There's also another bill that was pretty cool.
It's House Bill 2656. It's a bill that I sponsored with several of my colleagues. It's for kids getting a lifetime hunting and fishing permit in the state of Kansas. It means if you're a grandfather like I am, I could buy my 5-year-old grandson a fishing license, lifetime fishing license. It cost initially, the bill had $200. We raised it because we wanted to make it budget neutral, which means the state wouldn't be supplementing the licenses.
And it's a combo license.
And it's hunting and fishing. So, and to encourage young people and they can also leave the state if they graduate from college and come back. They can still hunt and fish for a lifetime in Kansas. We have it for adults. We have it for seniors. You can get one over 65. In fact, I have one. But this is just for kids to encourage young people to be involved in hunting and fishing. That's what Kansas is known for.
Right.
You got Milford Lake, several lakes. You've got our pheasant hunting, quail hunting, and so and it also would encourage them to get hunter safety when they get of age for hunter safety. And as you know, Doug, I've taught that for like 25 years. But it's a good bill. We have seen recently, in the last 10 years, the number of young people getting hunting and fishing license have went down. We want to encourage that. And so it's a good bill. It passed overwhelmingly in the House, and I think the Senate will be taking it up. But it's just something to do for young people.
It was
and grandparents.
And grandparents, there you go.
It was kind of interesting during the debate. The person who brought the bill is Representative Ken Corbett from Topeka, who's an avid sportsman. And we have a couple of other avid sportsmen who a lot of times these guys don't agree on different things. Will Carpenter from Butler County, and then Representative Doug Blex from down in southeast Kansas. They all agreed on this. It was fun seeing them all together supporting getting this passed. So it really made it fun on the floor.
Good.
I think it's the first time Will Carpenter and Corbett ever agreed on anything. It was a good deal.
Well, you hit the perfect one then, didn't you?
Did. It was awesome.
So we're glad Corbett brought that bill. And Dan?
So really what going forward, we're in week 8. We've got 2 more weeks of committee for non-exempt committees. Now, John's committee gets to work all the way through with no deadlines. We're going to be going on the floor the 3 weeks out, and then the 4th week out, we're going to be doing what we call conference committees. And that's really where the rubber meets the road, Doug. A lot of bills go back and forth across the rotunda. They get changed, and we have to reconcile those changes. And literally, we fix a lot of things when we get to that area of our our year. So
I like to say we're fixing the Senate's mistakes.
that's right.
No, there you go. Okay, we're going to cut away, take a break. You're watching Legislative Updates. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final segment of Legislative Updates for this show. And first off, John, thank you for coming in, as you do every Friday, and bringing in a special guest. And Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I know you're on your way back to Wichita. You've had a long week, just like John has, and you're headed back to Abilene. And of course, John's the 70th district, and you're the 100th district. And thank you for all of the work that you guys put into this, because as I sit here and listen to this week after week and we go through this, it's absolutely amazing. It is amazing, everything that takes place, and if you don't have good people in the legislature, I would hate to guess what it would be.
Yeah, well, we're on a 48-hour pass. Remember those in the military?
Yeah, I do.
You got the weekend passes, 48 hours. We come out on Fridays and we leave on Sundays.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for watching Legislative Updates.